Hello everyone, this is the Hotbox MMA podcast. I am your host Danny Priceless, co-hosted by my good friend Young Dhami.
Hello.
What you say, mate? You alright?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Same old. Right, okay. So I think the first question a lot of people are going to ask is why we decided to do this podcast. I think quite a lot of people are kind of giving us a heads up that we should decide to do one, probably because the UK doesn't really have many of them. So we've been thinking about it for the last year or so that I've decided to put this idea together. Kind of started off with an Instagram page and kind of worked from there really, and got in touch with quite a lot of fighters in the British scene that quite appreciated what I was doing at the time, and they all gave me a heads up to try and go for a podcast. So there is quite a lot of honorable mentions which I will get to, but I thought first of all just the whole idea of why we decided to put this together was just an idea really, and we thought why not go through with it considering there's not many. So I do hope you enjoy the Hotbox MMA show that we'll give you. I wouldn't say it's going to be every single week. I think at the start, like I said, we're going to work around UFC 229 with McGregor and Khabib, and then a post show, and then we'll just see where things go from there. Like I said, I did want to kind of build a base before I decided to do a podcast, so that's why I started with the Instagram page, got Twitter up, and YouTube. I think just slowly but surely we'll get somewhere. So I'm quite new to the podcasting, so I have asked and reached out for advice from people in the podcasting world, just to kind of give me any kind of tips or hints to kind of make things better, because I know it's not going to be perfect the first time around, but I do hope you enjoy it. So I think the first thing we'll go through then is who it's co-hosted by. So co-hosted with my good friend Ryan Dhami. We do talk about MMA all the time, and he's here listening.
Yep, alright, how you doing?
What's say, mate?
Oh, good.
So he knows quite well that we're into MMA quite a lot. We do talk about it quite a lot. Every other weekend there's always an event, and we tend to put little bets or powers on with each other on who we think's going to win. And it's quite fun, so we thought why not record it and let everyone else hear it as well. And with just the feedback from Snapchat and Instagram alone, quite a lot of people have said why don't you record it and let everybody else hear it, and I'm pretty sure people will find it a laugh. A lot of people will gain knowledge from it. We might even have hits from people saying that they don't really like certain things. That's fine, because we're all about moulding and making things better anyway. So if there's anything out there you want to hit jabs at, or you think, oh, you could do this a little bit better, be free to put it in the comments and let us know. And we'll improve it as much as we can. Considering it's the first show, people are out here with their 100th show and they're still struggling. So I think we can all start somewhere. So let's get on the show. So firstly, with honourable mentions, I think the main kind of guys for myself, I would say that's made me do podcasting in the first place, are people like Ariel Helwani, New York, Joe Rogan, Eddie Bravo, Joey Diaz, Brendan Schaub. These type of people are all inside the podcasting world already, and they're doing very well for themselves. And they seem to obviously have a really big base of people coming to listen or coming to view their YouTube videos, all because they are good at what they do. So those are some guys I would just mention off the top of my head that are in the podcasting world that I do pay attention to and I do watch quite a lot and listen to gain knowledge from them. The next thing I was going to go through is why today. So why did I decide to, or us in a way, decide to make this podcast now? Like I said, we've been thinking about it for like a year or so. But I just thought there's not really a bigger event than UFC 229 to work around. So I thought for this event, to start your podcast is kind of, I wouldn't say a goal of mine, but it's a pretty good place to start. Because everyone and anyone's going to be watching the fight. It's made for casual fans and for hardcore MMA fans regardless. So even your auntie or your mum or whoever will know that Conor McGregor is going to fight because someone will be talking about it. So for that reason, we decided that this will be the best fight, to start off with. So before we get into the nitty gritty of MMA, I do decide to wanted to make the show a bit casual also. So it's the case of we don't have to 100% speak about MMA, but that's going to be the main topic. But obviously there's going to be things around our lives that are going on that might be interesting. So that's the thing I'd like to go into first, really, normally. So I'm just going to obviously just ask Ryan what he's been getting up to. So, how's your week been, bro?
The week's been not too bad. Just busy working, you know how it is. But past couple of days trying to sort out this podcast, hopefully getting everything set up, and so far so good at the moment.
Yeah, we've had some issues, haven't we, as well? It did take us a while to get things together.
Yeah, it did. It took us a couple of days to get everything right. Found out that some of the mics weren't right and all sorts, but eventually got there in the end.
Yeah, exactly. We just don't give up, really. That's the main thing. So it's the case of when something doesn't seem to work for us, we don't tend to just think, oh, you know what, forget it, throw it aside. We'll just keep working at it, making it better. So, like Ryan was saying, we did get our laptop, our mixer, and our microphones and everything set up. But we just had some technical difficulties with the mic where we just have constant issues, and we're just basically thinking, all right. I was actually losing my head. I was thinking, how's this podcast going to go through? We can tend to keep having problems, but we can't really fix it. And then just getting more knowledge, like I said, doing more kind of background checks on what I could do better, considering it's the first time I'm doing it. I decided to find a way around it. We're here now, and we decided to record, and we seem to be going fine. So hopefully there's no issues. But like I said, we take points and kind of little hints from yourselves very seriously. So obviously if there's something you wanted us to change, or you think maybe we could add something in, be carefree to drop that in for us, and we'll continue to take your well, that's my words there. Your feedback on. Sorry, cheers, Ryan. Okay, so right then, so the next thing I had written down here that I was looking to talk about was the location of the fight. So before anything's kind of set, we got Conor and Khabib. They're going at it at Las Vegas. So the first thing I was thinking of, was it going to be an island or was it going to be in Russia? And I think that's kind of a big deal, really, because if it was in Russia, you would think that there's going to be a big roar, because you know Conor wasn't going to say no, he'd definitely go up there. But the fight, I think, would have a big impact. So I think with them choosing between Russia and Ireland was kind of a tactic move, because they know it's going to cause a war. There's going to be big problems, so they're trying to keep it neutral and have it in Vegas. So the location in itself, I think Las Vegas is a good place, because I think it's in the middle. So it's the case of you're going to get even Stevens, really. You're going to get people from both sides coming down, showing support for their guy. So I think, like I said, I think the fight would be maybe, I wouldn't say 100 times bigger, but it'd be a lot bigger if it was in Ireland or if it was in Russia. But I can see why they chose Vegas. It's the case of, it's the safety choice, isn't it? Yeah, neutral ground. It's the case of they're not really looking to have any problems with anyone. I think obviously New York would have been a big problem, because Conor's obviously been busted there, had issues. So sticking to Vegas was a good idea. What do you think about that, Ryan? Think Vegas is a good place to do it?
Vegas is a perfect place to do it, because like Danny just said, it's a neutral ground, so you'll have tons of Russian fans, tons of Irish fans, and even American fans who will go absolutely crazy on that night. And thank God we've got this podcast all sorted out for the week ahead.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we had it, because like I said, we were looking to try and do this before the fight, just as a bit of a lead up to it. But I didn't really want to bounce around everybody else, so I tried to obviously do it in my own time. Whether it was going to be a week or 2 weeks or a couple of days, it was just, I knew my deadline was going to be before this fight, that we were going to pull out a podcast and speak about it. So the fact that we got everything together and we're going good now is pretty well. So the location of the fight card is Las Vegas. So there's nothing obviously too great about that. Obviously, it's just a neutral grounds area, like Ryan was saying. Next thing I was going to talk a bit of a breakdown of the fights. So I wouldn't normally do a breakdown of every single fight on the card. I can touch on some of the fights, but the main thing I'm going to do is go through the main card. We'll have a quick look though, and have a look at the prelims and who they got on. So you got Ryan LaFleur versus Tony Martin. That's going to be the first fight of the night. Okay, Ryan LaFleur and Tony Martin's good fight. I think Tony Martin has got good striking in him, but he obviously good at submissions as always. Like I say, it's when it's down to kind of on these stages, it's going to be a bit of even Stevens, because a lot of these guys they're putting on there is just to build up the card. So Ryan Flair's a really good fighter as well. I couldn't really tell you who would win out of those two. I would obviously keep an eye on it. Really, is the two good fighters that are on the undercard. Then we've got Gray Maynard versus Nick Lentz. Gray Maynard's a legend in the sport. This geezer's been around for a long time. His fights with Frankie Edgar are pretty great. I mean, his fight with Nate Diaz, should I say, was pretty insane. Nate Diaz gave him a good punch up. But yeah, Gray Maynard's a proper legend in the sport. So these two going at it is a pretty mad, stand-up war in this sense. Because Nick Lentz is obviously on the rise. He's pretty much in the scene, and it's not really the case of he has any kind of learning to do. They're both kind of guys that are going to come and throw down. So you can see here that Gray Maynard, just looking at his stats, he doesn't really have any submission wins. He's really just nitty-gritty stand and throw down and throw leather and kind of look for the knockout. So that's going to be a pretty good fight, considering it's on the early prelims card. We've got Lena Landsberg versus Yanni Kunitskaya. Is it ironic both of them got beat up by Chris Cyborg? It was a bit mad. Both of them have taken hours by Chris Cyborg, and now they're fighting each other. I would say Lena Landsberg is a really good fighter. She tends to go the distance pretty well. Yana Kunitskaya came in and she literally just throw her into the wolves. They made her fight Cyborg, and Cyborg just decimated her. So you kind of be able to kind of see where she'll be in this fight against Lena Landsberg, who, as her nickname shows, is Elbow Queen. She tends to have dirty elbows in the clinch and on the ground. And like I said, she tends to go for the distance, so she's really good at that. Alright, who have we got after that then? We got Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman versus Alan Patrick. I've seen Scott Holtzman fight before. I haven't seen Alan Patrick go for the fights before, so I don't know if he's a newcomer. He's got a really good record though, 15-1, 27% by KO, 13 by submission. They're in the 155 division. Like I said, I couldn't really give you a name on who would win that fight. I would look and probably say maybe Alan Patrick, considering his record looks pretty good. But so Scott's 11-2. So that should be a pretty good fight. Yeah. What we got then? We got Vicente Luque versus Julian Turner. I was going to say Julian Turner's probably a new person. Vicente Luque, I've seen a few of his fights. I wouldn't say there's anything that's kind of like on my highlight reel where I'm thinking this guy's going to make a killing. But yeah, he's obviously on the rise and got a few fights in his bag, so good luck to him. We got Sergio Pettis, so Anthony Pettis' brother, against Jose Formiga. That's a pretty good fight. I think they're really good and really fast strikers. So I think there'd be a really good mix with them two. Would I say out of those two? I would say Formiga. I think because out of the two, I think Pettis is very good speed-wise. But when Formiga takes you to the ground, it's kind of the case of, are you really going to get back up again? And Sergio Pettis obviously has been in there with wrestlers before and has tended to get back up and continue fighting. But with Formiga, I haven't seen many people, once they hit the round, kind of stand back and be the same. He tends to keep them down there with his pressure, and obviously either look for a submission or just beat you up until it comes to standing up and you got nothing left in your tank. So I think that fight will be pretty good. That one I'll definitely keep an eye on because I know they're very two good fighters. Right, okay, so now we're going to go straight to the main card now. So the main card is obviously what I really wanted to talk about, because we've got some really, really good fights here. What do you think about the main card? Why do you think it's a good fight?
Main card?
Yeah.
Mate, I'm sorry, I totally forgot about Ferguson and Pace fighting.
I know, man.
I was looking on the radar with Conor Khabib.
Yeah, man.
Ferguson, wow, it's going to be a good fight. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the main card.
Yeah, the main card looks pretty crazy. I think they make good choices here. A bit mad though, because I remember the Pettis brothers, the Anthony Showtime and obviously Sergio, they both agreed that they wouldn't fight on the same card again with each other. Only because they like to corner each other more. So when they're fighting on the same card, they can't really corner each other. They've got their own demons, their own little training going on in the back. And obviously if one of them takes an L, the other one obviously is on pressure to fight and obviously win. And obviously if the other one wins, they both want to win. It's the case of, they did agree at one point that they wouldn't really fight on the same card again, so that's pretty weird to see. But clearly, obviously, they just thought, right, fuck it, let's just go head on and jump on the same card together and make some money. So yeah, good for them. So let's just go through the main card then. So the main card, we've got Michelle Waterson. Sorry about that. So we got Michelle Waterson versus Felice Herrig. That's a very good fight. I would tell you if I had my money on it, I would say Felice Herrig is going to actually mess her up. I think Michelle Waterson's a very good fighter. She's got good speed, good kicks, but I think she can't really take a punch very well. I know that sounds bad, but I think in her fight she's showed that. So I think Felice Herrig, she's called Little Bulldog for a reason. I mean, she does more people and she hurts them. And she's very good in most of the fights that I've seen her fighting. Even when she's taken losses in, she tends to show that she can bring a war, and a lot of people can't take that. And I think with Michelle Waterson, when I seen Rose Namajunas win against her and kind of tap her out and kind of school her in a sense, I looked at that fight and I just thought, right, okay, that just shows that she can't really take bombs very well. But when I seen Felice Herrig fight, you just look at her every fight, she's doing the same thing. She's literally looking to take your head off or choke you out or just literally maul you in all senses, whether that means taking a punch by doing so. So I would say, in my head, I would pick that as a fight for Felice Herrig to win. As long as she stays away from Michelle Waterson's kicks, she should do pretty well. But yeah, I think I would say Felice Herrig would win that fight. What do you think, Dami? Who do you reckon would win there?
One knowledge. I reckon I'd go for. If you know me and Danny, if he picks one opponent, I always go for the underdog.
You'll always pick the other dude, you know.
I always pick the underdog, so I'm going for Cry High.
Yeah, you're going for Michelle Waterson then, yeah. Okay. Maybe because obviously she's just good looking, that's probably why he's picking her.
And those.
Yeah, but Felice Herrig I think is pretty fire as well. But anyway.
Could do.
Could do. But yeah, I do, obviously, like I said, personally I think Felice Herrig will win. Ryan thinks Michelle Waterson will win, but we don't hardly ever pick the same person. So obviously, like you said, when I pick one person, he's definitely going to pick the other. Which is obviously fine. It actually works pretty well on the night out, obviously on the night of the fights. The biggest one, obviously, with Mayweather versus McGregor. I was a top McGregor fan, had the t-shirt and everything. This geezer bought the Mayweather mask, and it was all in my face.
PMT.
Oh, mate, I had no words for that night. But McGregor will be back. He will be back. Right, okay. So, the next fight on the main card, then, we got Derek the Black Beast Lewis versus Alexander Drago Volkov. Very good fighters. Alexander Volkov just come off some obviously decent wins. He even knocked out Fabricio Verdum, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, he's doing very well for himself. Considering the division, there's a lot of sharks in the division, in the heavyweight division, because all it takes is one loss and you're kind of going tumbling down again unless you've got a big name and a big following. In the case of Derek Lewis, you could say obviously he's taken losses. The people are still paying to watch him fight because they like his style, and he's got a life outside of the cage. With Volkov, you either see him in the cage or you don't really know much about him. So, even though he beat Fabricio Verdum, how many people really took it seriously, I don't know. Obviously, I would take it seriously because I knew Verdum was a killer, but we ain't going to see Verdum for a long time now because he's been banned for 5 years for substance abuse. So, he'll be gone. But yeah, Volkov, he's on his way up, but it's a tough fight for him. I mean, Derek Lewis likes to scrap. Alexander Volkov likes to scrap, but Volkov's a lot more calculated. With Derek Lewis, he tends to kind of throw and throw all his power out there, and sometimes even hope and throw. So that could go into Lewis's fall. So if you ask me on a tactical level who would win in this fight, I would say Volkov would, because it's a 3-round fight. It's not 5 rounds. And if you were to ask who would outlast who, you would think Volkov would. With us, obviously, he's had experience in decision wins before. And like I said, considering it's a 3-round fight, not a 5-round fight, for heavyweights that makes a big deal because they kind of got to split their energy. Where when they're doing 5 rounds, they kind of have to reserve for the first couple of rounds to kind of get their energy up. But yeah, I would say in this fight, I would see Volkov winning by decision, to be honest. Unless obviously Derek Lewis just comes with a big bang and just knocks him out. But yeah, that's who I would think out of them two. What about you, Ryan?
My personal opinion is, well, like I said, I was the opposite, so I'm going to back Derek Lewis. Simply because, one, he's got tremendous knockout power. He's looking to get into the ring and lobby it into the ground. Whereas Volkov, like I said, he's more calculated, but he still has knockout power. But I'm going to go for the Black Beast this round.
Okay, right, so he's going to go with Derek Lewis. Like I said, I can see Derek Lewis landing the shot on him, but I would definitely think Alexander Volkov would kind of be the person to win. Only by obviously being able to outlast him and try and get the body kicks in and the body punches and kind of work Derek Lewis down. Because Alexander Volkov's a kickboxer, where Derek Lewis is more of a scrapper, like a sprawl and brawl scrapper type of fighter. So obviously, if Derek Lewis hits the deck, is he going to get back up? Can you see Volkov taking him down? Not really, because he's a kickboxer. So you may see a stand-up wall, but if Volkov puts the right brain set on and walks out there and really tries to just be tactical about it, he could win. And that's only if he uses those tactics well, and meaning obviously keep space, hit the body, get him tired, and if it means take him down when he's tired, then do so, because he doesn't like being on his back. But kickboxers don't like taking that kind of risk. When they know they're good at standing up and they're never really good on the ground, they don't really want to take someone down, even though they know that person hates being there. So yeah, it's kind of the case of obviously who puts their work in. If Volkov comes in there smart, he should win. But obviously, a smart, like Mike Tyson always said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Yeah. So obviously, Derek,
lack of punch.
Exactly.
That's why Derek Lewis's last fight.
Yeah.
So I reckon the pressure is going to be more on Derek Lewis to perform, because last fight,
he looked poor.
That was
Francis Ngannou.
That was just
terrible,
man.
Yeah, no one wanted to see that. Well, people wanted to see that fight, but when they seen them go at it together, they're just like, "What the hell's going on here?"
Like deers in the headlights.
Yeah, like mate, bros, for real. Like it was the least strikes ever thrown in the fight. Yeah. That's pretty insane, you know. Yeah, least strikes everywhere. At least strikes ever thrown.
In a heavyweight title.
Well, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. So yeah, that just shows you what's going on over there. So yeah, like what I'm saying, I think Lewis has got his back's against the wall. He needs to win the fight. But I would say Volkov, if he was statistically or came in there tactically, should I say, he should win. But we'll see what happens with that one. Obviously, we're gonna have a post-fight show once UFC 229 is done, and then we'll look over the winners and the losers and where they go from there. Right. Okay. Then we got the top 3 fights of the night. Well, the top of the card. We got Ovis St. Preux versus Dominic Reyes. This is a pretty decent fight, I would say. I think they could have packed the card a little bit more, but I think they're relying on Khabib and Conor and Tony Ferguson and Anthony Pettis to carry the show, I believe. Looking at the rest of the fighters on the card, I ain't got no qualms with it, but I would say they could have beefed it up a bit. But I can see that the co-main and the main event is what they're selling the money worth, and that's why people are coming to see it. Yeah. So yeah, looking at Ovis St. Preux and Dominic Reyes, it's a very good fight. I think Dominic Reyes has got some sharp hands, to be honest. There's a reason why he's 9-0. He's had good fights in the UFC. But Ovis St. Preux he's a weird cat, bro. I think it's because he's got good knockout power. He has been knocked out, and he's very good at submissions also. So he's got like the most. Is it the Von Flue choke? Where the choke that he does to everybody, and no one can get out of it. Look that shit up, you dummy. Ovis St. Preux choke. Just click on his record and it'll show you all his wins. I'm pretty certain. Is it the Von Flue? I'm pretty sure it's the Von Flue choke, but now they're calling it the St. Preux choke, because there's only been certain amount in the history, and he's been the cause of 3 of them. Yeah, the Von Flue choke, that's it. Yeah, so I think there's only been 4 in the history of the UFC, and this geezer's done like 3 of them. That's pretty insane. So it just shows you that he's very versatile wherever he is. But the fact that Reyes has got knockout power, is kind of a problem for everyone. I think we always say that the heavy hand tends to be a problem for everyone, but I think in this case it's going to be the case of they are 205ers. They're quite heavy already. So it's the case of whoever lands first. Considering I don't think Reyes wants to lose his all. He ain't looking to take an L. And I think with Ovis St. Preux, he's just looking to prove himself yet again. Obviously, he stepped up to fight John Jones when John Jones returned. No one wanted to fight him. He stepped up and he gave him a decent fight, and that just exposed John Jones and exposed that John Jones wasn't spectacular, and he had to grind for that fight. He couldn't just go in there, do a couple, the standard combinations and get out alive with a decision win. He made him fight a fight. So yeah, that's a decent fight there, I would say. I think with Reyes, who do you reckon? Do you think Reyes will win?
Well, from what I've seen, I haven't seen much of Dominic Reyes, but I've seen a lot of him St. Preux. So who are you going for this round?
I don't know. I would say Reyes because he doesn't want to lose his all, but that doesn't really make a difference, really. But yeah, I personally, okay, I would go with Reyes knocking him out.
Reyes knocking him out?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, he has got a good percentage rate of knockouts. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to go with 7th rank Ovis St. Preux on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's going with Ovis St. Preux. Is this because you're picking the opposite, or legit you think he'll win?
No, from what I've seen, I've got Ovis St. Preux. He's a good stand-up fighter as well. He can take you down if he has to.
Yeah.
And he's got a decent record as well.
Yeah.
But only thing with him, I don't think he's always consistent. But with him, it's always a one-punch game, so you never know. Yeah,
you see Jimmy Manuwa when he knocked out Ovis St. Preux.
Yeah.
Knocked his lights out. Big up Jimmy Manuwa, man. Big up Jimmy Manuwa. UK fighters doing things. But yeah, he put Ovis St. Preux to sleep standing up. Look, it was actually quite scary. So that's Dominic Reyes and Ovis St. Preux there. Now we're gonna go to the bomb burners. So we're going to Tony Ferguson versus Anthony Showtime Pettis. This fight is gonna be nuts, let me tell you. Mainly because if you look at it in the case of Tony Ferguson's on a return, he got his belt taken off him. To be fair, so give me the lowdown on his situation. Is he beats Kevin Lee and gets the interim lightweight strap. He holds the interim strap and is about to fight Khabib. And he steps out because he apparently fell over a cable in backstage in the UFC press conference, or in the backstage area. He took a fall and he did something to his knee and completely ripped his muscle off his kneecap or something like that.
ACL.
His ACL.
Yeah, clean off the bone.
Clean off the bone. Like even to come back and return from that's pretty insane. But I was always a big Tony Ferguson fan. I always thought that if anyone was going to expose Khabib on the ground, it's going to be Tony Ferguson. Because obviously we'll get into Khabib a little bit later on, but I think it's the case of everyone's afraid of being taken down by Khabib and hell there. But what they don't realise is Tony loves being on the ground. He loves fighting off his back. He's a 10th planet jiu-jitsu black belt. And those type of fighters he's a great scrambler, as everyone knows. So wherever you take him on the fight, he's comfortable. I wouldn't say he's got the biggest knockout power, but he did knock out Ramsey Nijem on the Ultimate Fighter. So he has got some knockout power, but I think it's the case of where his power comes from. Where he places himself in his movement. He's very weird in his movement. Where he gets himself in the movement is where his power comes from. So it's not the case of he knocks you with his hand and it's so heavy. It's the case of where he punches you from, you don't see it, and that's what knocks you out. So Tony Ferguson, I'm a big fan of Tony Ferguson, always have been, and I would obviously love to see him versus Conor or him versus Khabib. I think that would have been a great fight. To be fair, I always thought Tony Ferguson versus Conor would be a bigger seller than Khabib, even though Tony has losses where Khabib hasn't. I always thought that Tony Ferguson and Conor can sell a fight very well, and when they bring their tools to the table, it's the case of Tony will stand with Conor, and obviously if it goes to the ground, you would know, obviously Conor would have some trouble there. But it was the case of it wouldn't be a boring fight. It'd be a case where Khabib, if he just comes in and does his wrestling and just takes out Conor, how interested are you really going to be? Where obviously Tony's got very flexible jiu-jitsu that everyone likes to watch. So he's going up against Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis, he's been in a bit of an up and down fall, I would say. Obviously he's come off the win of Michael Chiesa and literally kicked his head off and punched him up, and took him out. I did obviously have Pettis winning that fight against Chiesa. I think Chiesa was a bit big for his boots in that fight. He thought that he was going to come in there and do serious damage, until he realised that he was in there well over his head. And he took that kick and he took that beating from Pettis, and he hasn't actually spoke out since. So in that case, you would look at, obviously a lot of people always say that you're only as good as your last fight. So in that sense, people might say obviously Pettis beat Chiesa, he's got skill. But you gotta remember who Tony Ferguson is, man. Tony Ferguson is a killer, bro. Like, this geezer has been about for a long, long time for a reason as well. So I wouldn't really write him off that much. But I think a lot of the reason why people do write him off is because he's coming back from an injury. So it's a case of how well is he prepared for this fight. But if you're looking at Tony Ferguson, he'd be pretty dumb to take the fight on his comeback if he knew he wasn't ready. So I think he knew what's on this card, what's available, and the case that if he does win, the guys fighting next to above him, which is going to be Conor and Khabib, he's going to have a shot at. And you could argue and say he's got the biggest mouth to ask for it, because he technically was the interim champion. He was set to fight Khabib. He got hurt, jumped out, couldn't fight, and now he let everyone else brawl for it, and he's lost his belt. So it's kind of the case of, you would say he deserves it, but is Pettis that other guy? That's the question. Like, I don't think he is. I mean, like, he beat Chiesa. Does that mean now he gets to fight? Like, it's kind of like they're padding Tony for this fight. Like, they want him to win so he can call out the winner of Khabib and Conor. I mean, let's be straight up and honest. Showtime Pettis has done very bad against wrestlers. I mean, Eddie Alvarez, RDA, these people, they mauled him on the ground. He did not get back up. He shows a tendency of when he gets taken down by heavy wrestlers to give up and not stand back up again. And you can see why UFC kind of catered some of his fights after that to make sure he wasn't against wrestlers. I mean, Chiesa's good on his back. I mean, in a sense, on your back and taking and choking people out. But I think they had Pettis winning this fight. So Pettis doesn't do very well against wrestlers. So if you think if Pettis did win this fight and he fought Khabib, how well would that fight go? Him versus Conor, okay, very different story. Maybe it'll be a bit different, but you know that the betting doors and everyone and the MMA pundits, everyone would have Conor beating Showtime Pettis if they fought each other. Only because obviously Pettis' losses are a big deal, and they come against wrestlers, and he tends to be a striker. That's the only bit that people will look at. But yeah, against wrestlers, he doesn't do very well. So if you was the UFC, do you really want Anthony Pettis to win the fighter of Khabib versus Conor? I don't think so. So I think that's why this fight in my eyes is just more of a padded fight for Tony, just to prove himself. Is he back in shape? Is he obviously ready to fight? And obviously, can he take on the high echelon of the fighters that are there? Would I say Anthony Showtime Pettis is a top echelon fighter? Maybe, but obviously his losses are a big deal because it's come from wrestlers. That's my biggest deal, because in the 155 division, if you've got wrestling, you got to be able to stop that. And if you can't, you're kind of in there with the sharks, because once you get taken down by some of these fighters, you ain't getting back up. Yeah. What's your lowdown, Ryan? Who do you reckon will win? Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis?
I'm a fan of both. I do love Tony Ferguson, but also I do like watching Anthony Pettis fight as well. But yeah, you've probably hit the nail on the head, really. I would go for Tony Ferguson on this one, simply because anyhow this fight gets taken to the ground, the guy's a magician. He'll make you do all cartwheels, and then before you know it, you go and sleep. Yeah. But
very unorthodox.
Very unorthodox with his own training. But for this fight, I'm going to go with Tony Ferguson on this one.
You definitely have to, and you got it really. I mean, like, if you're a fan of Conor, you're a fan of Khabib, you're a fan of the 155 division, you're going to be a fan of Tony Ferguson. Only because, in some eyes, in my eyes, he's the interim champion. He had that belt. He won it fair and square. I know a lot of people say, Kevin Lee wasn't that high up in the rank. Well, neither was Al Iaquinta when he forced Khabib, and Khabib beat him. And that was for the fucking real title. That wasn't even for the interim one, you know what I mean? So, if you're going to talk about numbers and names and locations, if anything, Tony Ferguson's got the right, because he faced a game Kevin Lee. Okay, fair enough, Kevin Lee had staph infection, but Kevin Lee was fucking game. He came in there exactly. He came in there to take that W. He didn't care about no. My man put makeup on his staph infection mark so people couldn't see it. That's how much passion this geezer had. This geezer's what? He wasn't even 25, he was 24 at the time before we took that fight. And this geezer was like, I'm going to put makeup on him, no one can see it, and I'm going to fight anyway. And only on the fight, Joe Rogan pointed out, I think Joe Rogan, is it staph? And then DC was like, yeah, that's staph. And then they must have radio to them, you can't say that kind of stuff. And DC was like, fuck this. Man's got staph, bro. You know what I mean? So yeah, like, if anyone, like, Al Iaquinta's on game, he exposed Khabib also, but if he was on about, if Tony was in the talks for that championship, he should still be interim champion. I mean, he got stripped because obviously he's injured and he wasn't able to fight. And now they're putting him there against Pettis. So yeah, I would say Tony should win that fight, but anything can happen, you know what I mean? I mean, how much does that injury really hurt him? I mean, ACL was a big deal, obviously you know a lot about sports and stuff.
It's a muscle and a shin bone. It's dangerous.
It's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
And for it to happen just by sleeping over a wire, that's
pretty nuts.
That is crazy. It's hard to everyone like that could it happen again, but
do footballers get that kind of injury?
Yeah, footballers get that quite a lot actually, depending on the history of it as well. So once you've done it once, it's more likely to
come back.
But
flipping hell.
I was surprised they came back within what, a year, was it?
Yeah. It's literally been just under a year, is it? I think. And he's returned.
2018 actually.
He's come back. When he left, yeah.
He withdrew from the event of the Khabib fight.
So would you say that's pretty quick, isn't it? Really?
That is pretty quick. Yeah. That is pretty quick. But there's something different about Tony Ferguson and the way he trains, the way he looks after his body. He
trains at that high altitude level as well, isn't it?
And he's got a master in Eddie Bravo.
Big up Eddie Bravo, man. Edgy bra. Yo, Eddie Bravo's the conspirator king, you know.
No, I'm not talking. Talk,
that'd be like the dream podcast, let's be honest.
Yeah.
The dream podcast, yeah. Brendan Shaw, Joey Diaz, Joe Rogan, Eddie Bravo. Who else are we missing from there?
Alex Jones.
Jeez. Get on Alex Jones, you know. Alex Jones. Hey, I think that 9/11 episode of Joe Rogan, you know. Probably watched that like 5 times. Remember, like, literally every type of conspiracy you can think of, they come out with it. And even things I'd never heard of, I was like, yo, shoot, let me research that.
There's no warm up to that podcast either.
Nah, just straight in. Straight in. Twin Towers and boom. That's it. Like, yo, these guys ain't wasting no time. Straight into the conspiracies. Okay, so let's finish off with the fights then. So, the main event is obviously McGregor versus Khabib. That's the reason why you came here to listen to this. It's the reason why we decided to make this podcast start here in the first place. It's literally everything what anyone's waiting to hear about and to get information on. Right. When it comes to this fight, or just general MMA, I don't like to be too biased, but I always like my opinion to be strong. Whether obviously that pisses people off or not, I don't really give a fuck. But obviously it's the case of opinion is what I'm going to give out to you. Whether you agree with it or not, that's kind of up to you. But I try not to be biased, but when it comes to fights that I'm passionate about, I will give you my reasoning, i.e. Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm, i.e. Ronda Rousey versus Amanda Nunes. Both those fights that I had her getting knocked out, and it happened. Even though obviously people were telling me I was full of shit, and they're like, yo, Ronda Rousey's the queen. But we'll go into her another day. I don't think I have enough time on this podcast to talk about her.
That's my favorite subject.
It's not even my favorite subject, bro. She's just full of shit, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even gonna go there. I know a lot of pundits in the MMA world have been like, "Oh, Danny, what are you talking about? She's the queen of MMA in that sense. She brought the MMA to women and all of that." But to me,
that's another time, though.
Yeah, another time, man. She's full of shit, man. Yeah, but I'm not gonna go into her right now because obviously I'll end up going off board and we'll be here for a few hours and Ryan will end up having to sleep here. So, okay, Conor and Khabib then. Big boy fight. Everyone's been waiting for it. And to be fair, I don't even know where to start with these guys, man. Ryan, give me a help, man. Where could we start with these two? We could be here for a while.
Proper 12.
Yeah, proper Irish whiskey. From a proper Irish animal.
Oh, man.
Jeez, this geezer is a PR king.
PR king. Business mind is absolutely ridiculous, man.
It's more than ridiculous. This geezer's on jobs.
It's the way he's visualized his goal from the start and hit every object as he's gone on to become the person he's become.
Exactly.
And that's for a mindset like that, you've got to be so strong and I've got to have a tight circle around you.
Mm-hmm.
But oh man, look at Khabib, man.
He's just a killer as well. Like, no matter how much of a Conor McGregor fan you can be, you cannot deny Khabib's wrestling. No way in hell can you say, "Oh, Conor's gonna slump him pretty quickly." You can't, man. You can't shut off Khabib's wrestling. It's a different type of ball game. This, like he said, if I miss a takedown, I'll go for 100 more. How many will you stop? And then every fight he's been like that, and that frustrates us, man, to watch. Like, when I'm watching it, and like, yo, bro, this guy will not give up that takedown, man. Like, he doesn't want to stand the ball. He doesn't want to give space. He's just constantly like, "Well, I'll get back up, boom, take him back down. I'm holding there, control him and beat him." And he won't stop. I have never seen a fight with Khabib where he stopped the takedown and thought, "Alright, fuck it, I'm just going to carry on doing something else." Never. He sticks to his goal and he keeps trying and trying and trying until you can't get up anymore and he mauls you. So yeah, this fight, like I said, I don't know really where to start with it, but I'll be honest with you, I am a huge Conor McGregor fan. I have been for a long, long time. I mean, I'm on about from Cage Warriors days and I was watching him on the rise. When he reached the UFC, a lot of people that I knew in personal circles or people that are around me or just people that generally talked about MMA, they didn't know who he was. I mean, like, when I was following this geezer had like 20,000 followers, if that. Like, no one had heard of him, like, outside of obviously Ireland and where he'd come from. And when he was on the rise, I was telling people, I said, "Yo, this guy's got the gift of the gab. This guy is Mystic Mac." I mean, he'll talk the talk and he'll bang out and you'll be like, "Oh, actually, he's actually said and done what he said he was going to do." And a lot of people look at that differently. When you see a cocky fighter, you'll look at it two different ways. One, it will be, "Oh, fucking, he's got a big mouth, he's going to get knocked out soon." Or two, he proves you wrong and you constantly keep watching. Just like Mayweather, I mean, he's the same. He was a dude that will say things to you and you'll be like, "Oh, fucking, I just want to see this guy get banged." And you keep watching, but you don't get it. Every time you watch, he's just finessing. Yeah. You're paying to watch him lose. It don't matter. He's still getting paid.
Mayweather, obviously, he hasn't lost, but even still, he's still tuning in. And
exactly,
talk of him coming back.
Yeah,
fighting Pacquiao.
Exactly. There you go.
But it is what it is, man.
Money talks, man.
You can't, like, people want Conor McGregor to lose, but still end of it, you're still gonna watch his next fight after that.
Exactly.
So you love him, but you hate him. So
yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
He's one of them characters, but for me, I think it's hilarious. Like, even his ability to calm himself down when doing the octagon, like, he brings it down to such a level where it's like just you and him.
That's it.
No one else. The crowd's going mad, but he's only focusing on the prey.
Yeah. Focused.
Even the Alvarez fight shows it all as well. Like, how calm he was. It was perfect.
He just had composure, and he came in there like he was like a picnic. Yeah. Like it wasn't a big deal. He wasn't going to take the second strap. He's just coming here for a quick scrap, and he's going to put him to sleep quick. It's pretty nuts. I mean, pressure gets to a lot of fighters, doesn't it, really? I mean, when people come up there to fight for a belt, and he was fighting for the second belt, I mean, to break records, to be the only other guy simultaneously owning 2 titles at the same time, and he came in there like, a quick beat, man, wham, bam, thank you, man, in a bit, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the case of no pressure whatsoever. He's like, he was, "Oh yeah, like, I knew this was going to happen. Alright, cool."
Yeah, it's like,
what's next?
Yeah, it's like I was saying previously, it's like as he was growing up, he already visioned him becoming a double weight champion as well.
Yeah.
So obviously he drives a lot more. He's motivated a lot more. So he knows what's on the line, and he executes his plan to perfection.
Exactly.
Come on, I don't think he got hit, did he?
Nah, he blitzed him like a Tekken fight. Yeah, bro. Did you see the combination? The Hadouken!
Yeah, Hadouken.
Put him out, man. And it's like, when you watch his hands, every hand touched his head.
It's precise shooting.
Precision, bro.
What was it saying?
Timing beats power, precision beats speed.
That, I can't even add to that. That's pretty much bang on.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty nuts, man. And the fact for him to bring proper 12 into it as well, it's just promotional kingdom, man. I mean, he's got them to put it on the damn canvas. It's gonna be on the octagon ground, you know what I mean? Like, it's not no joke thing. It's not a case of it's gonna be, UFC sponsor. It's his shit. Name me one other fighter that the UFC has done this for. Not one. Even Jose Aldo, who was a king for 10 fucking years, they did not give him a throne like that. Not one. And even, I wouldn't even say Aldo was paid to the highest ability. I mean, considering, obviously, I know MMA's grown over the years, but, like, Conor took away what Aldo had in 13 seconds. Everything that he ever had, or ever grew to ever have and take on, he lost. And, yeah, Aldo has obviously been okay in some of his last fight. I mean, he got that win against, who did he beat by the body punch? That was a really good... Jeremy Stevens, yeah, he body punched him and to oblivion in the liver and beat him, and he started crying after the fight, because he was just like, these guys put me off. I mean, Conor must have been a fucking, like, Grim Reaper in his dreams at night time. Like, this geezer's literally destroyed my dreams and everything I had, and I've had losses since then, and now I've finally got a win under my belt. You would say, like, he was a king for 10 years, king of 10 years in the UFC and WEC, and Conor comes in and just sweeps everything he ever had under the table, and literally Aldo's that geezer who got knocked out in 13 seconds, even though he's so much more than that. I mean, the geezer's a legend, you know what I mean? Like, whether you want to take that away from him or not, he's been great in fights. But obviously, after Conor, Max pieced him twice, and it was just the case of how much does he really have. And when he beat Jeremy Stevens, it was the case of, he's still got something in the tank. And I think that cry out for help was the case of, like, literally, like, Conor destroyed everything, but I'm coming back. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, obviously Max Holloway is a great fighter as well, and I think he's just got Aldo's number. Some fighters do. It's the case, obviously, you might see someone fight someone like, obviously, Nate Diaz, Conor 1, Nate Diaz, Conor 2, Nate Diaz and Conor 2, when they face each other, they worked out differently. Where obviously you look at the case of Max Holloway versus Aldo, both fights went the same way, except worse, the second fight. It was the case of, he just had his number, and he couldn't beat him. Yeah, so with the Conor versus Khabib, the first question I would have is, what does a loss do for each of them? So, if Khabib loses, what happens to him? So, in my eyes, if Khabib loses this fight, it wouldn't be such a big deal for him. I think if he lost the fight, you're going to hear all the signs out to say, oh yeah, Conor was going to knock him out, Conor was going to do this, Conor was going to do that. But every guy before the fight that was very confident about his wrestling ain't going to have nothing to say. Because you can say wrestling beats Conor because he's not good on his ground. And amateur Danny, as an amateur me in MMA, when I first started to learn, I would say the same thing. Oh, the geezer's going to get taken out. I mean, when he gets hit on the ground, he doesn't seem to hold down well. But name the last wrestlers he's faced. He's beat them. Chad Mendes was a mad wrestler. Fair enough, he had obviously 2 weeks for camp and he came in short, and obviously Conor dismantled him. But the main biggest thing is the fact that they came for a fight, and Chad still wrestled him, still put him on the ground, still hurt him, and tried to pressure him. But what happened? Conor still got up, kicked him in the gut, and punched his chin off. So it works both ways, you know what I mean? Like, you can't say that the wrestler will win every single time. Eddie Alvarez, that geezer's a mad wrestler, clean wrestler. He showed that against Anthony Pettis, wrestled him down and put pressure on him and didn't let him get back up. Eddie Alvarez wrestling didn't touch Conor McGregor. He tried to clinch with him, and Conor flipped him on the cage, bust him up, and literally, like I said, Tekken combination knocked him out. Tekken KO, like, it was a case of, man, when you're playing Tekken at home on your P4, and someone presses 5-6 buttons and you don't know what they're pressing, and he just does this Hadouken. That's exactly what he did. It was the case of a combination that you wouldn't see happen in MMA. Like, he made it look embarrassing, like 3-4 punch combinations no matter where you're going, and they landed. It's pretty insane. So the wrestling talk was there for that fight also, and he didn't really suffer with that, and he beat him. So I know Khabib's wrestling is a bit different. It's Sambo wrestling, so it's a bigger deal. I mean, I was talking to Ryan about this before. We're trying to compare wrestling and Sambo, what the difference is, and Sambo is more about control, and in the sense of his wrist control is so insane. I mean, like, I'll give you a quick trait on something that I always look into in Khabib's fights here. And I know it sounds silly, but I always just say I don't want to talk about it, because obviously it's a case of, what if this does happen in the fight? Because it's so close, and I don't really give a shit, but I'll tell you straight, the biggest reason why Khabib wins 9 times or 10 times out of 10 in his sense is the case of when he does wrestle you, he takes you where you feel most comfortable and beats you there. So, for example, when you get taken down in MMA, in UFC, wherever it is, whenever there's been a takedown, what's the first thing a coach shouts to his fighter to do?
Get up.
Also, what else? He tells you to go to the cage. He says go to the cage and stand up. That's the first thing they want you to do. They want you to back up, roll to the cage, and use the cage to stand up. Mate, every time Khabib's done this to a fighter, he lets them go to the cage. Why is that? Because he knows fighters like to go there. And that's where he wins. And the reason why that is a psychological win. He lets you feel like you can stand up. And the second you do stand up, he yanks your hands from underneath your arse, and he pulls you back down again. And he just waits for you to stand up again. He does it constantly. He does it to the point where you give up personally yourself. I mean, his fight with Edson Barboza, when I watched that fight, I was just like, Edson Barboza can't be held down that long, can he? And he just made it look like he was drowning constantly. He took on his striking, which was a bit dumb. And I'll tell you straight, it literally showed open doors in Khabib's head. He thought he was Muhammad Ali that night because he dodged some of Edson's kicks. But what he didn't realise was Edson wasn't Edson. Edson was scared of the takedown, and he fought like a guy that was scared of a takedown. That's a different type of fighter. So, when Khabib took Edson down the first 2 or 3 times, he let Edson go to the cage, and Edson, with his left hand around Khabib's neck, as in trying to stand up, like you say you're drunk and someone's trying to stand you up, and his right hand's on the ground trying to stand up, and he's using the cage as back leverage, because obviously his legs are tired, he's tired, he can't stand up, he's using the cage to stand up. Every fighter likes to do this, and every coach tends to tell his fighter to do that. Not against Khabib, never. Because when you do that against Khabib, that's how he wins. So as I was saying, he keeps yanking your wrist out when you're trying to stand up. And I'm going to use Edson as a prime example because he did this to him. And every time Edson would stand up, he'd take a breather and Khabib would pull his wrist from underneath him and make him do it again. To the point where Edson didn't want to stand back up again. He tried, but he wasn't using the cage. He wasn't trying to stand up with his leveling of his power. He was just trying to move. And when you're trying to move and you're getting mauled, you look like you're going to drown. And that's what happened to him. So my biggest trait on Khabib is the fact of his clinch work and his wrist control by the cage. Take away his wrist control and his ground control by the cage, I think his sambo would be a lot different in the middle of the ground. In the middle of the octagon, it would be a lot different. I would say there'd be a lot more pressure involved, but at the same time, he wouldn't have that psychological win over you where you feel you can stand up only for him to take it away from you. So, that's a big thing Conor needs to do, is stay away from the cage. Same thing with Tyron Woodley, he's the exact same. When Tyron Woodley, if you watch his fight, exactly against Darren Till, exactly against Josh Koscheck, exactly against Stephen Thompson, when his back foot touches the cage, he leaps. And I mean leap, he throws one big power punch to give you a warning shot. And some man take it, some man move out the way. Some man get knocked out, and some man keep going, but that's his cue. His cue is when my heel hits that cage, that it touches that steel, I'm going to throw this bomb and I'm going to knock you out. And he tends to win. He won 2 times. He hit Darren Till with it. And I said the same thing in that fight. Darren Till needs to be careful. Because Darren Till likes pushing people against the fence. And you can't do that against Woodley. Because when he touches the edge of the fence, he throws power. So the same thing with Khabib. When he has you against the fence or around the fence, you ain't getting up. And only, like, if this was old MMA rules, old UFC rules, that geezer could hold the cage and punch you up. I mean, there's rules now you can't hold cages anymore. But can you imagine if you could do that? You can't stand up with you having all the cases in the world and moving. But imagine the old rules, how much it would be a lot worse. It'd be a lot worse. So the first thing for Conor needs to be is stay away from the fence. I'm not his coach, I'm not his trainer. I mean, this geezer can do whatever he wants, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a fan, I'm talking from just knowledge sense of what I've seen. And I would say Khabib's clinch and wrist control is a big reason why he wins. What do you think, Ryan? Do you agree with that?
No, you nailed that on the head completely. I was going to say the same thing. You'd see pretty much all his fights, it's all the same kind. The opponent's by the cage. Khabib's got the opponent's legs in a figure 4 lock, and he's just holding on to his post, post hand to get up. Yeah. And as soon as you think you're getting up, they'll drag your wrist back down. They'll start punching your head off clean again.
That's it.
And that's the way he wins. People, even against the Edson Barboza fight, he was yelling at Barboza, telling him to give up.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get out of that position.
Exactly.
And eventually, Barboza ended up just understanding that I'm not going to get up.
Yeah.
To be a constant.
And just kept on moving. He didn't get out of it. He didn't try to get out. He took fate and realised I'm not going to stand up, and just moved to stop himself getting mauled even more. but it was a case of he admitted defeat. In my eyes, if you looked at his face was like just a case of, oh, fuck this shit, man. Like, what have I signed up for?
Yeah, he's completely done.
Yeah. So going back to the point of what would happen between each one of them, I mean, that's just the difference between Sambo and wrestling. Obviously, his control and how he gets you down there. And I think, obviously, Khabib's biggest thing is his clinch control, his wrist control alongside his Sambo. His wrist control is a big, big factor in why he wins. Same thing in his fight against Michael Johnson. You know, in most of the guys he's fought, he's beat them all with the control of posture and wrist control, and with obviously his Sambo. But his Sambo comes at a price. I mean, how much of that can you do? He does that all the time, but there's going to be a point where if someone uses that tactically and eats his body up whilst he's trying to Sambo, they're going to have a good chance of winning. There's been no one there. No one has done that to him yet, so there's no one that can say, oh, maybe you could do this. We've seen doors open here and there of doubt of how he could lose, but nothing really concrete.
Yeah, even the Ally Quinter fight, it took him 25 minutes, but it was hard work. Could be for 25 minutes.
Yeah. Ally Quinter made it work.
Yeah, and I reckon from that fight, kind of seeing definitely some weaknesses where he can exploit. But that's what when we talk about discuss kind of.
Yeah, because it's like I said, Khabib is a mauler and he's a magician on the ground in the sense where he murks you. There's no words for it. He's that if you look at a promotional point of view, he can't trash talk. There's nothing there for him other than skill. Everything he brings to the table is skill and raw talent. Yeah. Okay. So,
what I would say is even Khabib's takedowns. There's a famous quote from Bruce Lee. I fear the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 1,000 times. Converted that into Khabib's takedowns and what he does against the ground. It's perfectly that little routine he does.
Exactly.
So it's going to be dangerous for Conor if it is. Hence why I would have thought the Ferguson fight with Khabib would have been a very interesting fight.
Yeah.
If you're coming into introducing Khabib Ferguson's world down there, but that's for the next one, I guess.
It's basically Khabib is Jason Voorhees and Tony Ferguson is Freddy Krueger. When it hits the ground, it's night, as in like it's his dirty world, and no one's been on the ground that's ever been able to flex out Tony Ferguson like he's been able to do to other people. So yeah, in a sense, like I said, for Khabib to take a loss, it wouldn't be such a huge deal because of the fact of obviously the amount of people he's mauled through, and a lot of people, including me, would class Conor as his first real test. Ally Quinter was a test, I would say. I was really looking forward to that fight. I think Ally Quinter on short notice is a different Ally Quinter to an Ally Quinter on a full camp. So I think the two real tests that he would have had, obviously, was Tony Ferguson. I mean, Tony Ferguson faced Khabib before this fight. We would have a big idea of who would win. A better idea of who would win, should I say. But the fact, obviously, that them two didn't fight is the case of, can Khabib take the power? Can Khabib stand up with these top echelon lightweight fighters that are in the game, and these sharks basically that are killing each other and that he hasn't had to face? I mean, let's be honest. If you look at Khabib's record, I would say a bit of it is padded. I mean, he's faced geezers on short notice. Like he can't really say nothing. He's just done whatever he's been given on the table. He's taken them out and he's won. There's nothing else to it. I mean, he's literally faced and beaten everyone that he's been given, so he's not really going to complain in any sense. But from an MMA viewer's point of view, has he faced competition? Not really. Has Conor faced competition? Damn right he has. Whether he's smoked them in a couple of seconds or he's gone all rounds with them, he's been in there with some of the best. I mean, obviously, the styles make fights. I mean, if Khabib faced some of the people that Conor faced, they would be different because he just brings wrestling and shut them down. But to be able to strike and finish them off and stop ground is a bit different than putting the groundwork in. Someone who stops the takedown and forces you to stand up is slightly more dangerous than someone who's going to keep trying to go for the ground and tire themselves out. Khabib, in a sense, doesn't really tire himself out much. He hasn't showed a point where he's gassed. If anything, he's telling the other guy, yo, you need to quit, bro, because I'm about to fuck you up and you need to basically say it's done so I can take the belt. So for Khabib, like I said, if he takes a loss, it's not so much of a big deal for him. If Conor takes a loss, it's the case of he gets paid and is he going to come back again? If he takes a loss here, his stocks are going to take a big hit. And I think it's a dangerous game here for Conor because he's come back knowingly because he wants to take this fight. He wants to finish Khabib. But can he finish Khabib? Can he land that crisp shot? Or is it gonna? It's 50-50. Who's gonna put their game plan first? Is it gonna be Khabib's wrestling or is it gonna be Conor's striking? Which one's gonna come first? That's the big question. So for Conor to take a loss, it's going to take a big hit on his stocks because he's coming back for this fight. Obviously he's had that fight with Mayweather, and if he takes a loss, you know what a lot of people are going to say to him is, you, in a sense, let go of MMA for a bit. You went after boxing and you lost precision and you lost goal by coming back, as you weren't focused enough. And there's two ways you can look at that. I mean, I would look at it in a sense of this kid has gone out there, perfected something that he's already very good at, which is striking, and he's perfected it to the bit where it's to a T. And that's because boxing involves that, it needs that. So, to come from that boxing experience background, to come back to MMA, would you say that's something that helps him or not? It depends on you as a person. I mean, some people would say, yeah, it does help him because his strikes is going to get better. Some people would be like, oh, but now he hasn't worked on his wrestling or etc. Trust me, this guy has worked on a lot of shit. Like, a lot of the videos that you guys see of Conor McGregor training and working out now, they're old videos, you know. They're not real. They're not recent. They're old videos. Because he's smart, he's not going to show you anything new that's happening right now. He's going to show you things from before because he doesn't let anyone in his camp. I mean, even the Mac Life are probably the only guys that see what's going on in his camp and what's going on around his real day-to-day life. But he's not really going to go out there and post his sparring videos, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen one video of him, like, I think when he put his hands behind his back and jabbed him up and he stood to the side and tried to pose. That's an old video. That was when he was going to fight Mayweather. I mean, that's a really old video, you know what I mean? Or was it even when he was going to fight Eddie Alvarez? Because that's where he did the hand thing. You know what I mean? He put his hands behind his back and he threw that combination. That's from then. And people are bringing it up now like he's training for Khabib. But that's all he needs. He wants you guys to look at old stuff. He doesn't mind. He's like, yeah, great. You're not looking at what I'm doing now. I'm going to be an evolved fight, a different person. So, for Conor to take a loss is more of a bigger deal than for Khabib to take a loss. It's the case of he's got a lot more to lose in this fight. Where with Khabib, I think because of his 26-0 record, he's kind of laughing already, and people already believe that he's going to run through Conor. So a loss for Conor is going to be a big deal, but a loss for Khabib I don't really see being a big issue. So that's what a loss would do for both of them. Sambo versus wrestling, we kind of already covered that really. What would win? It's the case of who puts their game plan first. If you ask me from a professional point of view, Sambo would win 9 times out of 10. But if you put him against someone who stops it, they got a good chance of winning. Perfect example is exactly like why I didn't want to go into this in the first place with Ronda Rousey. In a sense where she's got the perfect judo and the perfect armbar and no one could dismantle it. Once they stopped those two things, she had nothing to give. Once the hip toss, the judo, the takedown defense was put in and she was forced to spark, stand up and bang, she lost all her fights. Well, the two that she decided to do them in. Holly Holm kicked her head off, and Amanda Nunes punched her head off. Both reasons because they stopped her from doing what she does. And she was very smart in the sense of she'd get you so angry that she'd make you do what she wanted to do. And that's Conor's game. He'll get into your head to make you want to stand and punch with him. He knows if Khabib pulls out the wrestling, it's going to be a long night. But if he gets into Khabib's head to make him think that he's some Ali, which is what Khabib thought he was when he faced Aloy Quinta. He even said, I watched a bit of Muhammad Ali before I came out for the fight, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to stand and box with him. And he did the same thing with Edson Barboza. Like, mate, do that with Conor. It's night night. No one play boxes with Conor. It's not going to happen. So yeah, that's another big deal there. So with the Sambo versus wrestling, it's who applies theirs first. But like I said, just because someone is spectacular at something doesn't mean that they will always win. I mean, like I said, Ronda Rousey was unstoppable. She had her hip tosses, her judo, her scrambles, and then her armbar, and no one could stop it. She had armbars from left, right, center like an octopus, like she had fucking 8 limbs. But that was only because she perfected that. Once you stop that, and you make them fight your fight, how good are they? That's the real question. So with Khabib, when you stop his Sambo, which no one's been able to do yet, no one was able to do that to Rousey either. Until I said to you, Holly Holm's boxing skills and her kicks will stop Ronda Rousey, and they did. And then Amanda Nunes came in, and with Amanda Nunes, it's a case of her jiu-jitsu. I said that will stop Rousey's takedowns, and her striking will knock out Rousey. That happened also. So you can't really say that obviously someone's so great at something that they will always win. So that's my big take on that. Khabib's got the Sambo, but it can be diffused only by making sure Conor stays away from the cage. And obviously, just Conor has an aura about him anyway. I mean, when he's standing up with you, a lot of fighters tend to be tentative. they tend to want to move back, or they don't want to come in too forward. They know he's a bit tricky. They're a bit on edge, you know what I mean? And the fact that Khabib's not a striker, being on edge is not a good idea for him. I mean, it's the case of, if he realises I can't get the takedown, which he said I'm not gonna, he said if I miss one, I'll keep going until I get the 100. He's gonna keep going for them, but let's say he misses them. Say he's got an off night. I don't know, say he's 3 takedowns, get stuffed and he's got nothing. What happens? What happens when Conor starts putting the pressure on him? That's when the game changes. That's when all the fans are going to come out of their chairs and they're going to be like, right, hold on. Conor stopping something, he's doing something. And then it's all going to be about Conor knocking him out. But then it's about Khabib getting his sambo back in. It's a talented fight in the sense of who puts their game plan first. So sambo versus wrestling is a big deal on this. And it depends on who kind of effectively puts it together first. How do I think the fight would go? It's a tough one. I would obviously... No, I wouldn't say obviously. To be fair, like, I've been looking at Khabib's last few fights. If I was to give you an honest opinion of mine, I would say Conor gets it done. I would say he'd get it done within the first or the second. Only because I know people say the longer the fight goes, Khabib's got a better chance of winning. But with Conor is the case that he just keeps striking. I mean, you've seen it with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is a dirty boxer, and he literally had Conor in the dark ages of the 5th round, and he was still punching, he was still going. So it shows that Conor might get tired, but he'll still keep going. You know what I mean? Like, he gets that second gist. If you watch the Diaz second fight, when they got to the 4th round, Conor looked like he had nothing to go with. He actually looked dead. He was done. But when he got to his corner, he had a second breath. And when the 5th round came, he came in there with a war, and that's what won him the fight. With Mayweather, he said the same thing. I lost the fight, but I needed my second breath. Had I made the end of that round, and my trainers got into my head and they told me, this is it now, kid. You were tired now. You got to finish him. It's a different ball game. When you get put into areas of discomfort and people are in your ear and they're telling you certain things, it can make you work a different way. So yeah, that would be a big case there. So I can see Conor getting it done, but I can also see Khabib getting it done as well. It can go both ways. That's why people are paying to watch this fight, let's be honest. I mean, if you knew that Conor was going to face someone and he was going to win, are you really going to pay to watch it? Yeah, because you want to see him win, but where's the real MMA in that? I mean, you want to see 2 superstars go against each other that have even Steven chance of losing and even Steven chance of winning. Hence why you want to see who's going to win that fight, and that's why you're paying. So yeah, personally, opinion, I would see. If I was putting money down, I would say Conor would get the knockout. But if you was asking me to bet my house and my life and everything, you would hope the betting books would have Khabib winning that fight. Only because once the sambo and the wrestling comes out, Conor doesn't, obviously showed he doesn't tend to do well on wrestling grounds. So he's done well obviously against Eddie and these people as well. But like we said, is Khabib's sambo is a different level, and is that going to be something that Conor can stop? So that's something there. Next thing I had written down here is what's next for them after winning or losing. So, first things first, before we get anywhere, Ryan, I was going to ask you, who do you think would win out of Conor and Khabib? And how?
Conor and Khabib, that's a tough one, man. Anyone who asks me that say it's a tough one. Simply because, obviously, Danny's broken it down to a TV and everything he said regarding Khabib's takedown and how he controls you by the wrist. But you also remember that each round starts standing up. But it'll be interesting to see how who takes the first step back in the first
who makes
round.
the adjustment.
Yeah. Because I was surprised when Khabib came out with Barboza and he was pressuring down. But that you rarely see that, but it just shows that Khabib can adapt to different fighters. But you also see that with Conor McGregor. As soon as the referee says it's goal time, he'll run to the end of the octagon.
He makes it seem smaller.
He'll get into your face.
Yeah. And
he'll he'll control his distance. He'll do leg kicks to your body just to get the right range. But it depends how many. This depends on how many takedowns could Conor stuff. He could stuff 5 in the first round, but will he able to stuff every single one of them, depending on how Khabib's going to take the fight? striking wise, there's only one winner striking wise. I reckon McGregor's got that, his ability to strike from any angle, use his legs as kicks just to get the. You might not. He'll throw a leg kick, but I don't reckon he's going straight for to knock you out with that. He's just getting the right range, making you think, making you doubt, closing in on him. But I'm gonna go. Obviously, I'll be a fool not to go with Conor McGregor, backing the Irish. Hopefully, I'll get a bottle of proper 12 by then as well, and proper 12, a little cheers. As soon as
yeah, but we'll have to fight Dublin for that then, because Ireland's got it going on in Tesco. Then America's gonna get it once the fight comes, and then we'll get it in the UK.
We also something out regarding that, but I am gonna back Conor McGregor on this one.
Yeah.
But it's one of them. It could swing either way. It just depends on who implements the game plan first.
Exactly.
But Khabib ain't no joke, and McGregor ain't no joke either. So it's gonna be.
It's 50-50 really.
I'm really seeing the edge of my seat, screaming butterflies. So it's gonna be.
You say Conor's getting it though?
I'm going Conor this one.
What round would you say and how?
What that's it. I'll go. See, it's a tough one because I'm having doubts about Conor's cardio. Has he worked on his cardio? Because again, he always in the middle of a fight, he'll always struggle to get his breath back. But by that time, you always get your second wind.
Yeah.
It's just depending on can he survive that little period where he's gasping for air. But I'd go with McGregor 4th round.
You say 4th round?
4th round, yeah.
Ooh. By knockout?
By
TKO
knockout. Yeah.
By the 4th round, that's interesting, that is. You say in the 4th round?
Yeah, but again, Dan Hardy said something which I loved. He said it could be a 13-second blitz by Conor McGregor, or it could be a 25-minute mauling from Khabib.
It's true.
Anything in between those, that's just...
anyone's bet, innit?
Anyone's bet.
But the 4th round, that's interesting, you know, everyone. Remember that. Ryan Dhami, young Dhami. My young Dhami is saying that Conor's going to blast him in the 4th round. That's a mad prediction. I mean, if you check the betting books on that, you're going to get some mad odds. I mean, check that shit out, young Dhami. Pull that shit up. I'm pretty certain the odds on that are insane. He's just checking there, we'll have a look. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the 4th round for Conor to beat him, I mean, the pundits in MMA are saying now that the longer the fight goes, Khabib wins. So the longer this fight's going to go on for in those rounds, Conor's losing his chance per round to have that chance of that W. Dhami obviously clearly disagrees with that sense, saying, you know, in the 4th round he's got a chance of clapping him. And I do. I mean, if you think of it, like what we said earlier, if Khabib's sambo gets stuffed, and which will be very hard, but if it gets stuffed and he gets forced to stand and Conor starts blasting him and he hurts him, the world's going to stand up and say, oh yeah, Conor's going to win. What if Khabib brings that sambo back and puts Conor on his back again, and then they stand back up and then Conor blasts him? How much of a mad fight is that going to be?
28-1 for Conor McGregor to win in round 4
by KO.
That's just him winning
just by the round. Yeah, the KO will make a big difference as well. I think is it round method of victory and round. The next one, round and method of victory. That's it.
It will be 25-1.
25-1. Ain't bad. Put a quick bluey on there.
A
cheeky Louis.
Yeah, submission round 3. Conor 200-1.
Yeah, you're gonna see a submission. Oh, can you imagine though? Imagine Dylan Dennis is giving him some pumped weapons.
I'm not surprised. Why not?
Yo,
black belt,
you're true. You know, it's true.
You expect Khabib to take him down. Why
exactly.
Not? Surprising.
Imagine he pulls out a Kimura or something and yanks off Khabib's arm one time.
Makes Khabib tap.
Imagine that. Your man tapped like chicken. Khabib tapped like chicken. Oh shit.
Yeah, you never know in this game.
You never know, you know. You never know. That could be a bet. I mean, think about it. Khabib would never ever see a submission coming from Conor McGregor.
Never. No one would.
No one would. You know what I mean? They would look for a KO, TKO. But what if he makes him tap like a chicken, like he was called one? That'd be insane.
He's worked a lot on wrestling, has wrestling coaches, and he's got one of his close boys, Dylan Dennis.
Dylan Dennis is an animal, man.
He's tremendous on the ground. He's like, what can I say about
He's got his own story, bro. He got from the Gracie family. I mean, I think he peeled off one of the trainers there, and they kind of told him to leave in a sense. But I think he's kind of been doing his own thing since then. He's tried to reach out with them, and they don't really want to know. But I respect Dylan Dennis. I think what he's doing is the case of he knows he's got something. He's got a trait. He's got a skill, and motherfuckers just want to get paid, bro. That's all it is. You know what I mean? We're just trying to get paid, bro. I mean, like, let's be honest. If you're the finest guy at building a house, and you don't promote it in any way, does anyone really give a fuck?
It's true.
Not really.
You need a personality to succeed in the game.
And I get that will piss people off, but mate, it's making him money. I mean, 1, he's helping Conor train as part of his team. 2, Bellator have signed him. And 3, he just choked out the geezer that they made him fight. Like, how the fuck can you say Dylan Dennis ain't on job? He is.
Yeah, and he choked him from the back.
Yeah, he did his dance. I mean, like, people can say, oh, Dylan Dennis' striking was a bit eerie. But what happened when the ground hit? Someone who's got 100% good ground skills and comes into the stand-up game has got a better chance of surviving than someone who's standing up who's never done ground.
It's true.
Like, I mean, you had give Conor those sambo skills that Khabib's got. What the fuck would happen? Mate, he would be a machine. You know what I mean? You could say the same thing. Give Khabib Conor striking, but you would say that Khabib ain't got the reach in that. You know what I mean? I mean that forward bit for that 4-inch reach that Conor's got, it makes a big deal. Only because Conor is the only guy who I've seen that is able to land and throw a straight uppercut, as in when instead of throwing a jab, they throw an uppercut instead of a jab. That's what they're using as their first punch, and that's what Darren Till used against Tyron Woodley, and Tyron Woodley ended him. And I think a lot of people mentioned on the commentary then as well. I think DC and Joe Rogan have said like the only person that can do that is Conor, and there's not any other man out there that can do that combination. So yeah, the fact that obviously Conor's very good at striking, it's an interesting fight, man. And like I said, I would have Conor, but if you told me statistically who would win, it'd have to be Khabib. But if you ask me personal level, what am I going to support that night? For damn sure, I'll have my Conor McGregor t-shirt on. I'll be supporting him for damn sure. Because I actually want him to win. I want him to shut down. Like when he beat Aldo, when he beat Mendes, I was just screaming like, "Yo, he's going to shut these doubters up." And now there's not doubters. Now there's just haters. There's just geezers that are saying that, oh, he's got to his head, he's got all this. Mate, if you heard that money, where would you be? You know what I mean? Like, this geezer worked hard for it, like, so he can talk about it. Like, don't be sour just because you've never had nothing in your life.
Yeah, I was listening to a bit of Ariel Hawani's podcast as well.
Big up Ariel Hawani. Big up New Rick.
I only heard a little bit of it, but Conor McGregor even admits it himself, like, having that much wealth now, it does change people, and it does change people around you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the circle that you got around you that keep you focused.
Exactly.
You might have seen him with all the bus attacks or party, flash his cash, but don't get me wrong, he's at his home, working, grinding, in the cage. Do you really think he hasn't worked in the octagon for 2 years?
Yeah.
He's working, but he doesn't.
He just need to show it.
He's very clever.
Yeah.
He's very clever.
There's no need to show it.
He's a very good businessman as well. Now, Danny says he's got the proper 12 on the canvas. So, money-wise, he's set. But this is just about pride himself. He wanted to make a legacy for his name.
Exactly.
In the future.
Exactly.
Even if he did lose today, next week, for sure he'll be back. He will demand a rematch.
Mm.
And
if Conor loses.
Yeah. They'll demand a rematch, and you know what will happen because Dana White and Conor. That's just a little partnership they've got going on.
Do you think he'd ask for a rematch if Khabib molds him?
Well, I reckon he would, because
he did it with Diaz.
Because you wouldn't want to end on your career on a loss.
Yeah,
so he'll always want to come back. If not, he'll go for someone bigger and better. But again, belts are on the line, so he'd want his belt back. And I reckon after this fight, he might even just walk out the door, I reckon.
Yeah, see, that's what I think. I think he'll be done after this fight. I think he'll make his money from this fight, and he'll only come back if Nate Diaz is ready to do the trilogy. That's it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because he's just signed a new 5 or 6 fight deal, and it makes no sense to sign that deal. The only reason that deal has been signed is because UFC want to control him. They don't want to let him go out and go do McGregor promotion, and do his own thing. So they know if he has any other fight anywhere, it's going to be only with the UFC. So his life is entailed in the UFC now. I mean, I don't see him having fucking 5 other fights, do you? It's impossible. I mean, it's possible, but is he going to? I don't think. I wouldn't do it. I mean, why? It's the case of money. I mean, he's been paid this money, and it's the case of UFC putting a safety net and making sure he doesn't fuck off anywhere else.
Yeah. Like from what I've heard from kind of interview he had, he wasn't actually he himself. He wasn't aware of the extension of the contract.
Yeah. I heard that.
His team actually did it for him,
Yeah.
and his reason behind it was that it's just a safety net for the UFC. So if it did happen, at least they got something to bounce back on, fall back on. Sorry, but that's pretty. I wouldn't go much into it because I reckon after this fight, if he wins,
He'll announce it.
Yeah, he'll probably pick out one other opponent to have.
Yeah.
If not, he'll walk out the door.
Nick Diaz.
Yeah, he's what 30, 31?
He's 30 now.
30, yeah. It's to have that much wealth by 30 and just whip up the game.
Insane.
What else can you do? You
achieved everything.
Achieved everything in the sport. He's focused on his whiskey, his family, other businesses he's got going on. I keep saying business-wise, he's very smart. I don't think he'd want to be in the UFC for long, getting punched in the head for a living for that many years. But again, he's 30 years old.
He's so young.
He's young in the sport, but he's killed the sport in a very short amount of time.
People try and reach 30 trying to get half of what he's had, and then they leave retired or nothing.
Yeah, it's true. So he's set a legacy for himself. Even for him to get a partnership with UFC, that's for him to do
insane.
That's
no one's ever done it, man.
No one's ever done that.
Because with Aldo, he was champion for 10 years. They didn't give a fuck. I mean, not saying they didn't give a fuck, but did they give him a throne? No. Did they let him go for a second belt? No. You know what I mean? That was kind of forbidden back then. I mean, you had to be a legend to go for a second belt. Like Matt Hughes, BJ Penn, GSP. Those are the geezers that got offered that. Jose Aldo, king of 10 years in the featherweight division. No one gives a fuck. No one gave a fuck. Until Conor came and changed the game, and then people really tried to give a fuck because they realised that these big talkers are coming to fights and you're willing to pay to watch it. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's true.
So, the next thing I want to talk about is how much we think the pay-per-view will sell for. So, if I looked at Dana White correctly, he said that his trade is trending around 2.5 million pay-per-view buys. Now, young dummy, do you think that's bollocks or is that real? Because it's kind of impossible, right, to find out who would win. I mean, how much it's going to sell before the fight even comes.
Possibly, unless they've got it down as pre-ordering. They've got it or some of the...
I've read that they're looking at it from statistics, as in from what fights have sold before, leading to this one. That's how they feel that they've got that number. There's no, like you said, there's no preview from where they're getting this number from.
Yeah.
It's just they're looking at all the past events, and this is what they projected it to be. And it's come from Dana White. No offense, obviously.
He's not the most reliable.
Exactly.
Source,
you know what I mean?
No offense.
Chat shit, Charlie, mate. Chat shit, Charlie.
But I don't. Yeah, it could happen.
It could happen.
You got all of Ireland. We're gonna watch it.
Yep.
UK, America,
Russia.
Even around but that's just some of the.
And the ticket prices are fucking expensive as well.
Yeah.
And they're sold out. Are they sold out? I'm pretty sure they're sold out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I sold
Let's have a look. Are they sold out? UFC 229.
Tickets. But the atmosphere in that stadium must be absolutely
sold out, mate.
Yeah. How long was it sold out for? They sold out in. But yeah, the atmosphere in the stadium must be electric though. When Conor walks out, oh my days.
It's gonna be crazy. Second largest gate in UFC history. The first largest gate, I'm guessing, would have been Nate Diaz and McGregor one.
Yeah.
So that's them. So my effect on that 2.5 million buys is you can't make those numbers up that early. It's pretty much impossible. I mean, even if you're looking at past stakes, if you're willing to say it's going to make 2.5 million buys, that's the most buys UFC have ever had. I mean, can you project that? How can you do that? If anything, you should be kind of punching below your belt and thinking, like, how much are we really going to get? And he's blowing out there thinking Conor's going to give him 2.5 million. It's a big number, man.
It is a big number. But you also got to think Conor brings a hell of a lot of supporters with him. People who tune in to watch him do good. And even people he will pay just to see him lose. People will do that as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Just so
like a Mayweather.
Just so they can brag about something. But 2.5 million, that's a hell of a lot of pay-per-views, man.
It's a lot.
I can see it happening. Don't get me wrong. But Oh, he's Dana White, so
yeah, that's what I mean,
again,
man. Trash at Charlie.
He does talk a lot.
He's a promoter, innit? He does what promoters gotta do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't believe things that he comes out with. You know what I mean? Like when he says, "Oh, nah, we got no plans for John Jones and all this." Yeah, you chat shit, mate. Yeah. The biggest plan is John Jones. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why you're stumbling on the events that you're having is because you know that he's available. He will be because he's already given a deal in to snitch, which is a whole other conversation that we'll leave for another time. But yeah, like Dana White isn't the most trustworthy guy in the game, but don't think he is. I mean, you'd be dumb to think he is. He's a promoter. That's what promoters do. He makes money. He sells you fights. He's not going to say to certain men fight on a certain date. Like the biggest thing when he crushed Ariel Helwani for a hot minute, like when it came to Brock Lesnar's return, I was thinking, mate, you're a dickhead. I mean, like just because this guy came across some news, he's doing his job. He's a journalist. You know what I mean? Just because your department wasn't strong and secure where that information got leaked from, that's not his fault. And you've literally tried to sabotage his career ever since. You know what I mean? So, big up Ariel Helwani on that one. But yeah, chat shit Charlie, Dana White. No issues with him whatsoever, but I just know what type of person he is, you know what I mean? Like, you don't believe what he says, and if you do, and when he lies about it, and you get touchy about it, then you might as well be a bitch as well, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So, next thing is what's coming next in the UFC. So, we got, obviously, UFC 229 here. The event after that...
This is in Madison Square Garden, New York.
And we got Volkan Oezdemir. Oh wait, no, is that right?
UFC 230, isn't it?
No. Yeah, after that you got a fight night event.
Yeah.
Which isn't obviously packed with talent, I would say, but Anthony Lionheart Smith is a pretty great fighter. So I'll be looking forward to that. Volkan Oezdemir. I don't know. He's got great stand-up in a sense where he's got knockout power. Whether that stand-up has great stand-up, I don't know. But DC is my guy, man. And DC literally blitzed him just like I thought he would. And I think he took away some of the confidence that Volkan had. So what happens with Volkan and Anthony Smith is going to be a kind of a flip sit on tables because Anthony Smith is on a rise. I mean, just because he's got 13 losses, do not take that lightly. It means he's had a lot of fights. He's had 30 wins, well, altogether 43 fights he's had, and that's as a pro. And Anthony Smith is a killer. So that fight against Volkan Oezdemir is going to be pretty much fireworks. Also on that card, you've got obviously Conor's boy, Artem Lobov, versus another Russian, Zubera Tukugov. Who's 18-4. So yeah, we've got them two going at it. That's the next event from then. After that, you got the big UFC 230, which if I try and locate, right, and it says here that they're looking. Oh yeah, they're looking for a main event. Yeah, and was I right in saying in this was going to be the one where they put John Jones in? I think so.
November, yeah.
Yeah, because they were going to main event Poirier and Diaz, but they decided to go for a quick change and left it 2DE, so it's going to be announced soon, whoever they're going to be for the main event. And the only person you can think of is going to be John Jones versus Gustafsson too. But there's also reason to say that they're going to put John Jones and Gustafsson 2 at UFC 232, because November's a bit too early, but who else is going to be in that fucking main event? I mean, if you can't put Poirier and Diaz as the main event, and that's the biggest fight on that card, who else will it be? There's got to be someone bigger than Poirier and Diaz, and the only one's going to be John Jones. So whether they're keeping the stake open just so they can fill it in later on, I don't know. Or maybe they're just going to say, okay, right, if Jones isn't available and we put him on 232, Poirier and Diaz got the main event slot on this one. Or they are legit going to wait for someone and put them in here. So that'll be interesting. We don't know who's going to be obviously on that fight, but Poirier and Diaz on that fight, that's going to be insane. And also, you got Derek Brunson versus Israel Adesanya. That's going to be a nuts fight as well. And off the top of my bat, I love Israel Adesanya. He thinks not kickboxing. And his stand-up is very, very good and clean. But Derek Brunson's got that wrestling, bro. And if you've got no wrestling and no ground, it's going to be a problem. And Derek Brunson tends to use that wrestling when he wants to. So Derek Brunson versus Israel Adesanya. That's at UFC 230, November 3rd, in New York. That's going to be a good fight. Same card, obviously, as Justin Poirier's Nate Diaz. We'll obviously get through to that card when it comes closer to the date. So yeah, I just thought I'd discuss the next few cards that we're going to have. So you got obviously a bit of a heads up on what you're going to see after McGregor and Khabib. So you got obviously Volkan versus Anthony Lionheart Smith at UFC Fight Night, which is in New Brunswick. So you got that fight coming up next, and then obviously UFC 231 after that. Right. Or 230, should I say even. Next thing I was going to quickly touch upon was Bellator 206. Bellator, I was going to congratulate and said that I was going to say that they're the first first MMA organization that have posted or aired an event on UK television, which is on Channel 5 for us. And that was a big deal for us, because the UK, we don't get that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? We don't get we feel like we're chasing you guys, we're chasing the Americans, we're chasing MMA to watch it, and that means we stay up till 6 in the morning to watch that event, and I stay up every month to watch that event, you know what I mean? And a lot of people be like, what the fuck, man, I ain't staying up till 6 in the morning, you're taking a piss. And let's be honest, if this was a British thing that we had on, would the Americans watch us at 6 in the morning? They wouldn't give a flying fuck, mate. They wouldn't give a shit. No one's gonna stay up till 6 in the morning to watch that kind of stuff. So the fact that we go out of our time to watch it just shows that we have passion for the sport. And hence why I'm building this base, because Hotbox MMA is here for one thing, and that's because I feel that the UK lacks that base of showing up and coming British fighters somewhere to talk, a place to voice their mind, give them something to rise off, so when they hit the UFC, people would know who they are. It's not the case of Cerrone versus Till, where Till comes in and like, who the fuck's this geezer, and you have to wait for him to blast your guy for you to take notice of him. That ain't gonna happen anymore. I think it's the case of now when you see British fighters coming up, they're going to have more of a name where when they're coming out of Britain, it's going to be Britain that's coming up to America to watch them fight. That's why Conor was such a big deal, because you had a whole of Ireland behind him. That's a pretty big deal, because you don't get that in many cities, or many countries should I say. So for Darren Till to bring Liverpool along with him, that was a big deal. It was the case of he had a big ground of people behind him, and that's what makes events as a whole. So like I said, at first I was gonna kind of praise Bellator and say, obviously they put it on Channel 5, that's great news. But bro, while I was watching Bellator, the main event's coming on, is hitting 6 AM, and on comes Peppa Pig, bruv, and like the kiddie breakfast show, and I'm just like, hey, hold on, has the channel got messed up? So let me retry back. So I turned they've gone back on the channel, gone back to Channel 5 again, boom, still breakfast show, and then I clocked, I was like, they're not going to give them the airtime really. If you're not done by 6 AM, ain't nobody stopping Peppa Pig, bro. Ain't no one stopping kids' breakfast shows at 6 AM.
I would be pissed, man.
I was, man. And I was just thinking, how can I watch it? Where am I going to be able to watch it? Because, let's be honest, obviously, we don't get much access to a lot of the shows that are on there. And, obviously, for the fact for it to come on Channel 5 was a big deal for us, so when it come off at 6 o'clock and I was watching Peppa Pig, I was pissed off, mate, I'm telling you. And I literally, I jumped onto Instagram, I was like, I hope the fight hasn't finished, and it's still ongoing. And just at that second, I downloaded the application that I think in the US they were using, I can't remember what it is called, is it Mazan or Gazan or something like that was being used for the Bellator event. And that's how I managed to watch the main event, even though I missed 2 minutes of the first round. And I was like, mate, I waited the whole night to watch Bellator, as in to watch Rory Mack versus Gegard Mousasi. The fight's about to start, and Peppa Pig comes on. I mean, every UK fan must have been pissed off, right? I mean, how dumb did we look? We were all like, oh, yo, lads, MMA or females, whoever, MMA's on Channel 5, yo, what watch it on Channel 5? No excuses, no BT Sport, don't have to pay for anything. Whack Channel 5 and there you go. And what happens? We get shafted with fucking Peppa Pig.
Peppa Pig, man.
So, that was a downside in that sense. I was going to say, yo, Scott Coker, you did a bad boy job. You kind of surpassed UFC in one thing, and that was giving UK fans a priority. But you guys still fucked up, bro. And I can understand, obviously, there's a certain time scale you're allowed to have. But if you're going to engage in looking at another market, another country, another section of market that you're going to look to promote to, at least do a bit of background homework on that area. And that just tells me that you guys didn't think at 6 AM nothing was going to happen. I mean, I'm pretty sure at 6 AM in America, you guys have news shows and things that pop up. And when they do come on, obviously, that can take over some things that you have planned on that television broadcasting. So for the fact that 6 AM, we waited a whole night for a main event, and it gets cut out to watch Peppa Pig and some kids' breakfast show, being pissed was an understatement for us. You know what I mean? Quick things to touch up on Bellator though. Aaron Pico, mate, if you watch Aaron Pico knock out the guy that he's in the fight with, I'm telling you, yo, this guy came to put on work. I mean, like, as soon as he came in, I was just like, yo, this guy's got the perfect mindset of a champion. He's got wrestling background, striking background, Freddie Roach in his corner. He's fighting in the training lab with DJ Dillashaw and Dwayne Bang Ludwig. He's working with, like, killers. So, when I see people work with killers in that sense, and you see a couple of the fights, when he took his first loss in his pro MMA debut in Bellator, it was the case of, does that mean that he got fed to the wolves too early? Nah, he just got caught. Everyone gets caught. when you throw him in this fight here, yo, he did damage. I mean, that fight could have been stopped multiple times when he was getting rocked against the cage. But Aaron Pico is someone you definitely got to watch out for, considering the kid's 22 years old and he's out here rocking off jaws. Brendan Shaw believes that he's the LeBron of our MMA world, because he's got all the tools to be the best, but he's young and got a long time to go. So Bellator 206 was a very good event. I liked the fights on the card; they were very entertaining, considering they're all on Channel 5 for us to watch in the UK, which was very great. But the whole Peppa Pig thing fucked shit up. So to be fair, Bellator, people are not going to remember watching Bellator on Channel 5. They're going to remember Peppa Pig being on Channel 5. That's what people are going to remember. They're going to remember that, oh, remember that time Bellator tried to put an event for us here in the UK and we watched fucking Peppa Pig at 6 a.m. and they fucked it up. That's what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember Bellator putting the event on. They're going to remember Bellator fucking up. So that's something in the future that I believe, obviously, we give passion, you know what I mean? We go out of our time and stay up 3-4 in the morning to watch your events in the UFC and Bellator, K1, Glory Kickboxing, whatever's on. We go through that extra effort to watch it. So we only believe, obviously, if someone is going to pay attention to our side of the pond, at least pay proper attention. That's all we ask. Do you agree on that, Ryan?
Yeah, 100% agree on that one. Bro.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We ain't looking for no Peppa Pig bullshit, you know what I mean?
Imagine that, man. It's been up to 6 a.m. in the morning, a long night, real. And a pig pops up, man.
Yeah, man.
I'll be vexed, man.
Alright, so let's go to Gegard Mousasi and Rory Mack then. That was a good fight. Rory Mack coming up a weight class, tried to take on Gegard Mousasi. Didn't go his way. I think Gegard obviously just put his power and his size to effect and just finished Rory Mack down. And a lot of people asked me what I felt on that fight and before the fight had happened. And I thought Rory would have a bit more of a chance, but the closer I got to the fight, I just realised that when you're going from that size to 170 to 185, it's a big deal. And that 185 big jump is a big difference because they're not coming in at 185, they're coming in at 195, 200, and you ain't making that big jump. So wrestling makes a big factor in that fight. So for Gegard Mousasi to finish Rory McDonald like that was a case of people need to wake up that Gegard is not no joke. And just because he's come from the UFC to Bellator, he's about to take over the scene because Rory was the biggest signing that they thought they had. They thought that Rory would run through everyone and he was their king. I mean, he's already got their 170 shot. They were looking to give him another chance, basically, to take this 185 one as well. And it didn't happen that way, so Rory took a stock hit with that one. So yeah, Bellator 206 as a whole, good event, but they fucked up with the Peppa Pig thing. So that didn't really look too well for that. Okay, right. So we're kind of coming to the end of the podcast now for this episode that I put together. There's just little things to look out for us now. So I'm gonna obviously get this put up onto YouTube for now. Going down the podcast route way and getting it put onto iTunes and Google Play and stuff like that. It's a bit of a difficult situation at the minute because obviously we have to get hosts for that and stuff like that. So I think at the minute I'm just gonna own my own package and put it on through YouTube and post it that way until I'm really prepared to obviously have those resources available to put it onto iTunes and Google Play. But do be sure to follow us on YouTube, on Twitter and Instagram at the Hotbox MMA. That's at the Hotbox MMA. Obviously, you know, because obviously you listen to it right now and you've searched it up. So big up yourself if you listen to this podcast right now. Big up. So we know obviously that it's not going to be the most amazing and spectacular podcast to begin with. But it's just information and knowledge for you guys to listen to, whether you're driving to work or you're sitting at home bored, or even if you roll in a joint. I don't know, anything. You're just sitting there and you want to listen to just, you know, MMA news. And the case is, it's in a sense where I'm not telling you in a sense where it's not going to make sense. I'm breaking it down to a T for you, and to a point where I'm giving you my opinion on something, and I'm being told quite a lot of people agree with it. And that's the reason why I've come out with kind of showing it. So that's the reason why we decided to do the podcast in the first place. So I really hope you enjoyed the podcast as a whole for this episode leading up to UFC 229, McGregor versus Khabib. It's definitely going to be a really, really good fight. Just some mentions here I would have for people that really helped me get this podcast put together. Obviously, one being obviously my co-host, young Ryan Dhami. I mean, without him, it's the case of I've just got an idea, but no one's really pushing me with it. So the fact that you have one of your close friends with you in your circle that also loves the sport also makes a really big difference. So cheers, Dhami.
I really appreciate that. I'm learning all the time, man. From a couple of years ago, I didn't know much about UFC. Or the
MMA.
Yeah, UFC as the platform.
Yeah.
For MMA in itself. But when you got someone who's passionate about the sport, who talks to talk, and it just rolls off their tongue, and then he started with his podcast, it makes me want to learn more, and makes me in tune with what he's saying.
Yeah. You're actually looking forward to the events more. Right?
Yeah. When I first got into MMA, he was telling me I was stay up till 6:30, 5:30 in the morning.
You guys thought it was on crack.
I was like, wait, you want me to stay up 5:30 to watch two geezers fight? No, it's like, yo,
what time's the fight on?
So yeah, I'm learning as it goes, man.
It's enjoyable, isn't it?
It's enjoyable. It's a learning curve. You won't know till you put in a situation.
Yeah.
And this is the first episode. There's probably a lot more we can improve on. A lot more we can build upon. But trust me, we'll knuckle it down and get it perfect, hopefully.
Yeah. So we're literally just out here trying to make things better as we go along. So, like I said, I know this is not going to be the most perfect thing in the world. It's going to be a video on YouTube with audio for you guys to listen to. But slowly but surely, we're going to make our way up that ladder. And we all believe you've got to start somewhere, and the bottom is where it's going to be. And I don't think we're at the bottom at the minute. I think the fact that we've made a base and people have heard of the name of Hotbox MMA, that's already something. So I'm not going to kick my product down at all. I'm definitely going to push my product as high as I can. And I'm not doing it from a promotional point of view. I'm doing it from a passion point of view. Because I'm not being paid for this. I don't really care about that. It's a case of that so many people have told me that you could do a podcast. I was like, yeah, why the fuck not? How many people out there doing podcasts? I mean, me and you listen to podcasts daily. I mean, so many people, whether it's motivational, knowledgeable, MMA, whatever. Joe Rogan, every day. There's not been a day that I don't look at Joe Rogan's podcast. Or there's not one where we've said, oh, have you watched that one, or have you watched that one?
My YouTube feed's full of podcasts, Brendan Sharp, from Rogan to Joey Diaz. Personally, from my point of view, I prefer listening to podcasts simply because they educate you more compared to music. You can only so much music you can listen to, but if you have a podcast running in the background, you'll pick up a little nugget from that.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's just about us learning what we're doing and giving that information to people who are interested, who want to learn.
Exactly. Just rolling it out, man, because there's so many people that want to do things but ain't got the balls to do it. Or they just talk about it, and then it becomes a myth or a dream. So where the case of here is, we talked about doing a podcast, we talked about, obviously, at first it was just the case of let's sit around a table and just talk about MMA and have a laugh. And then it got the case of, okay, should we just post it on YouTube? Then it was the case of, should we make a full-on podcast and get a logo made? And little things just escalate from there. So this is just the first step in many. So obviously I know this is not going to be the most polished up podcast in the world, but I really hope that you enjoyed it, because we're going to keep coming whether you like it or not. So whether it's something that you think, these guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about, or I don't really like this that much, well, fuck you, mate, if you don't really give a shit. You know what I mean? We don't really give a... Who the fuck is that guy, in that sense? We don't give a shit, man. Legit, you could knock us or you can praise us, but either way, we're going to keep going. And that's with obviously the support of you guys, the real fans that actually like listening to this stuff. And I want to be open about it and constantly do this near enough every week. But I know to begin with, there had to be a good event to start, and this was the one. So it's just on some honorable mentions, like I said. So Ryan was definitely one of them. Another one of them that I would really like to mention is Molly McCann. That's Meatball Molly McCann. If you know her from Next Gen Liverpool, mate, she has given support from day one. And I'm on about just sending her a DM asking if at some point I could give her an interview. At some point I could do some... This is before I even had the equipment for my podcast. I DM'd her and I asked if in the future I could get her to work with me on the podcast. Just as some self-motivation that you know that you're going the right way, that people in the sector and the field are aware and are aware of what's going on and are willing to jump on. And she replied a lot of times with help and just pure motivation just to keep going, and always basically wished me well in the podcast and how things would go. And I inboxed her the other day to let her know I'm recording an episode today and I'm going to post it. And she said, yo, if you need any help on getting this put through Twitter or anything, I can do that for you. No one needs to do that. You know what I mean? Like, how many people in the field that claim that they're fans of something can get people from that field responding to them? It's very hard. I mean, like, a lot of you guys are so gassed up on getting a like or a response from Drake. I don't give a fuck about any of that. Mate, just someone in the fight scene telling me that what I'm doing is a good thing and they're supporting it, that's big enough for me to keep going. And it's exactly why I couldn't give two fucks if someone didn't like the show. Or if someone had a lot of... Like, don't get twisted, I said before, like, if there's things that you think we could improve on, we'll take them on. If you downright shunt the show, fuck yourself, mate, because we don't give a fuck. So yeah, that's that. So big up Molly McCann from Next Gen Liverpool. Alongside Paddy the Baddie Pimlet, that obviously works alongside her. Big fan of his. I would really love to see him inside the UFC. I would have really loved to see Molly and him on the Liverpool card together. But obviously I get where Paddy's coming from. He knows his worth. He's not going to fly over there until obviously he finesses what he's doing. So big up Paddy Pimblett. I think he's going to make some fucking waves, mate. And I think once he jumps over from Cage Warriors to the UFC or Bellator or wherever he goes, people are going to, like, the UK knows his name, but the Americans don't. And that's what happened Darren Till. That's the problem that we have. Like, if I was doing this for 5-6 years, it'd be a different story, because once people reach the UFC, there's going to be a bigger deal. It wouldn't be a Cerrone Till situation. It wouldn't be at all it wouldn't be a Till fucking Woodley situation. I mean, even though that fight was coming, in my head I knew that Woodley would beat him, only because Darren Till, I don't think, was ready for that fight, not for that power. So in this sense, like, that's the biggest problem we have, is getting a base for UK fighters, and that's what I believe I'm doing and on the way to. So like I said, Molly McCann and Paddy Pimblett, respect both of them a lot. Molly McCann, obviously respect her because she definitely helped me, motivate me to keep going with the podcast. So big up her. Next few guys, definitely New York Rick, from obviously Ariel Helwani's MMA show. New York Rick is obviously the first producer I'd ever reached out to in the podcasting world to get any advice, and he fucking replied. I mean, like, if he's listening to this, mate, New York Rick, like, you are one of the main reasons why I recorded this today, and that was because I just told you, mate, I'm gonna go through with this, and someone who's already doing this, said to me, yo, have passion, just talk about what you love, and it'll go, and it'll work, and that's exactly what I've done. And I think little things like that, they mean a big deal to me. That a little message as, oh mate, I've took on what you're doing, you're in the same field as me, fucking good luck to you. And that, those kind of messages help you and push you further. So big up New York Rick, and I really, really mean that, man, because, I mean, let's be honest, without him, Ariel Helwani's MMA show won't exactly be the same. He works with him there's a reason why he's there. He's a producer, and he makes the show what it is. It takes two to tango, you know what I mean? You need both of them to be able to make a show. And that's how it works. So Ariel Helwani, I'm a big fan of his, which I will get to. But New York Rick, mate, to get advice and heads up from him is a big deal. So big up New York Rick. I'd like to really thank everyone in the British MMA scene, really. Coming out of Birmingham, where I'm from. Obviously there's a lot of fighters out here that are training their way up to the top. Friends of mine like Jake Hadley MMA, who's in the flyweight division, and he's coming up to obviously his second pro fight, and he's on his way up to the top. You gotta be careful. I mean, I told Ariel Helwani, I told New York Rick, I told these guys, you better remember Jake Hadley's name, because when he comes up there, it's not going to be the case you don't know who he is. He's been grinding from day dot. I mean, when I first took my first MMA lessons, he was 13, 14, and he was ripped as a shred. I mean, he was on his way up, and now he's a lot older, and he's in the scene. He's taken on the amateur division, and now he's in the pros. He's coming to hurt, mans. You need to be careful for him. So big up Jake Hadley, one of my mates there. Vaughn Lee, he's a UFC veteran, he's already been through the UFC, he's from Birmingham, and he trained in a gym in my area, which is quite big, with Ultimate Training Centre. Obviously you get the likes of Rocky, Leon Edwards, and Fabian Edwards, the two brothers that come from that gym, both killers. So Vaughn Lee is someone obviously who I reached out to when I was making my Instagram account, and just trying to gain followers and build a base, and he helped me do that. So big up Vaughn Lee. Obviously, he's obviously retired out of the MMA scene now, and obviously he's still training out there. I've seen him, but he's a warrior. I mean, he's gone through Thailand and everything to get his training levels up, and he's a UFC MMA veteran, and to get a backing from him is a big deal. So big up Vaughn Lee if you're listening. And then really just big up the whole British MMA scene as a whole, you know what I mean? I have friends that box also. I mean, this is primarily an MMA show, but boxing is always there to talk about. I mean, we're going to touch upon Fury and Wilder, but we don't really have much time. But these are things that we would kind of raise. So for the next episode, when post UFC 229 comes, we might add some boxing in there. We might talk about other things that are going on. But we knew that UFC 229 was going to be a big talk. Hence why this podcast is kind of dedicated to that. So yeah, I'd really like to thank everyone in the MMA fight scene. I've got friends obviously in the boxing scene, Jake Rawlins, who's on his way up, and he's taking fights in the amateur leagues, going on to pro. They're all good friends of mine that are in the league. So it's the case of, I'm not stupid. Like, the things that I'm talking about, I might not be training in them 24/7, but I have people that are around it 24/7, people that live that life that I actually speak to on a regular basis. So I know what they go through. So it's the case of, like, having friends in that environment kind of makes your knowledge even so much higher. In the sense, the podcast makes a lot more sense, because the people that you're talking about, they're giving you their reviews on their life, on how things are working for them. So it's always going to be 100% truthful and honest, whether it's coming from my mouth or from the actual fighter's mouth. So yeah, big up the whole Birmingham and UK scene. I'd just like to thank all of you guys that have been listening, really. and literally just follow us on our journey on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter, and just watch us grow. Like I said, this is the first episode of many. We've got a long way to go, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop here. It just basically means that we're just on a journey, really, and this journey is just going to keep going. And like I said, it's the first episode. We're going to have plenty more to come for you, but just anything you think that we could improve on, just let us know. But I really do hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of the podcast with me and Brian. We came here to put a mark. We didn't know what kind of response it's going to get, so we just thought, you know what, fuck it, let's record it and get some ideas together, throw it out there, and see what the public think. But like I said, first of many, really hope you enjoyed the show. Ryan, you got any words for these guys, man?
Just want to touch up on thank you for listening. We really appreciate that. Just pass on messages to other people. Start sharing the podcast. Just talking about it. That's the biggest way of communication. Just talking about things you like. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. We do appreciate everything you have done for us. Spending an hour and 45 minutes pretty much. Yeah,
it's actually flown, isn't it?
It has flown.
It's flown.
The first 10 minutes was awkward, but after that it's just flowed.
Yeah.
It's been a good 45 minutes of audio. But again, thank you for listening, and we do appreciate it. Hopefully you can share it on to other people.
So make sure you guys go follow the Hotbox MMA on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Sorry. Follow us on there and keep up to date with the episodes that are going to come in your way. I'm going to obviously work on this episode and get it put up for you onto YouTube, and Instagram will be Instagram and Twitter will be your heads up to let you know when it's up. Please feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube to obviously get recent updates on when the new videos are up. But I really do, like I said, I really hope you enjoyed the show today. I'm trying to keep this as raw as possible, so it's the case of it's an ongoing process. Like Ryan said at the beginning, it was a bit oory-ari, a bit
technical.
It was a bit we weren't too used to it. Kind of the case of I felt like I was speaking a bit robotically. And afterwards, I feel like I'm talking to having just a general conversation, and that's with New York Rick's help and advice that he gave me. We just let things flow, you know what I mean? I mean, as long as you know what you're talking about, just keep going, and people will appreciate it. So yeah, thank you for everyone listening to the Hotbox MMA podcast. This is the first episode, and a big mark and a bang for you guys to look at, because we are going to come in strong. We know obviously there are many other MMA outlets in the UK which are open to continue going. We don't have any problems with them. If anything, we would like to work with them, because we believe that I'm working on the British UK scene coming up, where there's a lot of outlets here that are training and looking at MMA and UFC as a whole, where we're looking at the young stars coming up there to give us a bigger name. So when our stars hit the USA or the US scene, it's not such a big deal. It's not something that they're not surprised of. So yeah, we're going to keep going and keep pushing. We really hope you enjoy the show, and we'll catch you UFC 229 post.